Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says there is no cause for undue concern over economic growth, promises the government is committed to taking all necessary measures, also says interest rates will have to be far more affordable.
Perhaps this has become the opportune time for having 100% FDI.
India's insurance regulator bats for 100% FDI in the sector. Chairman Debashish Panda says it's an opportune time to do so. Also adds that they are nudging large and mature insurers to go for public listing. That's an exclusive. Government is likely to discontinue the windfall gains tax imposed on crude oil. Sources say the Prime Minister's office has decided to end the levy after a review. Tata has to double down on its Apple bet. Sources say that Tata Electronics is in advanced talks to pick up 60% stake in iPhone manufacturer Pegatron's India operations. The development comes exactly a year after Tata's acquired Wistron's India business. Delhi's air quality slips into the severe category, triggers stricter pollution control measures. All construction and demolition activities have been banned. No physical classes for students except for Class 10 and Class 12. Airlines warn of flight delays as visibility drops. Violence escalates in Manipur. Police say a protester was killed in firing after clashes with a mob that was vandalizing properties. The state is on the boil again after the death of women and children who were abducted by militants. A high-voltage election campaign draws to a close in Maharashtra. All 288 constituencies will vote on the 20th of November. Onion farmers in North Maharashtra are still upset over the export restrictions imposed earlier. A special report coming up. World leaders gather in Brazil for the G20 summit. Ukraine Zelensky asks G20 to take note of Russia's attack on Odessa, which killed 8 people. Kremlin accuses US of raising tensions after it allowed Ukraine to fire American long-range missiles into Russian territory. 76 people killed by Israeli strikes in Gaza in the last 24 hours. Pope Francis calls for an investigation into the potential genocide in Gaza. Israel also intensifies its Lebanon offensive. Hezbollah chief spokesperson killed in an airstrike on central Beirut. COP29 climate summit enters the second week in Azerbaijan's capital Baku. India calls out developed nations for lack of progress in climate finance. Shares of Mama Earth parent Honasa Consumer hits a 20% lower circuit, hits an all-time low after reporting losses in the second quarter. The disruption following its distribution model change is a key factor behind the weak show. Well, first up, the day's trading action. The Lal Street failed to hold the recovery. Nifty and Sensex fell for the 7th straight day. Nifty is now below the 23,500 mark. Broader markets outperformed the blue chips. Nifty Bank ended 0.25% in the green. Metal stocks, meanwhile, batted for the bulls, but IT firms were the laggards. Well, here's the big newsmaker this evening. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman played down concerns over a potential slowdown in economic growth. Speaking at the annual SBI conclave in Mumbai, Finance Minister said that there is no reason for undue concern and India remains in a strong position. She also promised that governments will take all measures necessary to ensure high growth. CNBC-TV18 Shireen Bhan quizzed the finance minister on inflation and interest rates. Last week at the CNBC-TV18 Global Leadership Summit, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal backed the Chief Economic Advisor's proposal to de-link food inflation from the headline inflation. Finance Minister believes we need more conversation to discuss the inflation and interest rate dynamics. Take a look.
Let me assure you that the government is fully aware of the challenges posed by both domestic and global factors. There is no cause for undue concern. India's economy remains resilient, underpinned by strong macroeconomic fundamentals. The government is closely monitoring an evolving situation. We remain committed to taking all necessary measures to ensure that India remains fully and firmly on course to become the third largest economy in the world.
How concerned are you about inflation, and what is the view as far as interest rates are concerned? Do you expect a cut anytime soon, or do you believe on account of where inflation is at this point in time, the cut perhaps is going to be further pushed out?
You know, this is a question which I'm sure every journalist would love to ask, and Shireen leads the bandwagon. I respect her for asking me this question. I will certainly try to give an answer. Global markets don't go by your demand and supply ups and downs. They want a consistent flow of pulses to come into India. So complex issues, but very much affecting the common man. So inflation gets actually very, very volatile because of the supply-demand constraints. Equally, I think what is important is when you look at India's growth requirements, and you can have so many different voices coming out and saying the cost of borrowing is really very stressful. And at a time when we want industries to ramp up and move building capacities, bank interest rates will have to be far more affordable. So I'm putting as much what Shireen asked me as a reply back to you, saying these are our requirements if we have to make Viksit Bharat not just an aspiration but as a reality. So we need to have a lot more conversation on this, and I would stop at that.
Now, shares of city gas distribution companies plunged in trade after their gas allocation through the administered price mechanism was cut by 20%. The second allocation cut in as many months is expected to impact the profitability of gas players like Gujarat Gas, MGL and IGL. The APM gas availability now stands at 45% compared to 70% just a month ago. Now, oil prices were marginally higher after fighting between Russia and Ukraine intensified over the weekend. However, concerns about fuel demand in China and forecasts of a global oil surplus continued to weigh on prices. Remember, the International Energy Agency has forecast that global oil supply will exceed demand by more than 1 million barrels per day. Now, back home, the government is likely to discontinue the windfall gains tax. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the Prime Minister's office asked the Petroleum and Revenue Department to finalize the contours of this issue, the relevant notification to discontinue the levy. Timsy Jaipuria joining us now with more details. Timsy, take us through what you're picking up.
Well, after almost over 2 years of existence, the windfall gains tax levy could soon come to an end. That's what sources are indicating to CNBC-TV18. What we are picking up is that the government at the top has decided to discontinue with this levy, and a formal notification for the discontinuation of windfall gains tax levy could come soon as by end of December or middle of December. Sources indicate that the Prime Minister's office has asked Petroleum Department and Revenue Department to finalize the contours to issue a relevant notification to discontinue this levy. Remember, this levy, that is the windfall gains tax, was levied from 1st of July 2022. And some of the reasons behind this discontinuation is that the average crude price was not yielding much taxes. The industry was unhappy with the levy, and the levy was having an impact on the production levels, and thus the country now wants to enhance its production levels of crude oil, because of which this discontinuation decision has been taken. Let's see how soon a formal notification is issued. Where are we actually in terms of the total collections? All of this are likely to coming in together with the announcement of discontinuation, which could be as soon as within December itself. Let's see. As and when it comes, we'll keep you updated. Back to you.
Right, Timsy, thanks a lot for that update. Now, the head of India's direct tax department is upbeat about meeting the budget targets. Speaking to Timsy Jaipuria, CBDT chairperson Ravi Agarwal said that the department is taking all efforts to exceed the budget goals.
We are very, very positive about the present trends in the budget collection, and as reflected from the present trends, I am very hopeful and I am in fact very sure that we would not only achieve the budget targets, but we would take all steps to exceed it.
Now, the insurance regulator believes that it is an opportune moment for India to allow 100% FDI in the sector. Speaking to Yash Chen at the CNBC-TV18 Global Leadership Summit, IRDAI chairperson Debashish Panda said that a lot of foreign companies are waiting to enter the Indian insurance market.
This has become the opportune time for having 100% FDI. So what will help potentially to the 100% is that it will play out in the sense now the players will come with 100% FDI. They can plan their business independently. They can decide on their growth plan. They can decide what kind of business they want to write. They can infuse the capital very promptly and easily because they don't need to depend upon their domestic partner. So all of this will also be a concomitant benefit which will accrue. And therefore, we need to perhaps think about. But however, I'm sure that the government will take a decision on this at the appropriate time.
Now, Tatas are doubling down on their Apple bet. Sources have said that Tata Electronics is in advanced talks to pick up 60% stake in iPhone manufacturer Pegatron's India operations. This development comes exactly a year after Tata's acquired Wistron's India business. The Supreme Court has refused to grant interim relief to Zydus Life Sciences against Delhi High Court's order restraining the company from production and sale of its breast cancer drug, Sigrima. The Apex Court has ruled that the Delhi High Court must adjudicate on this issue. Shares of Zydus Life Sciences fell in trade following the Supreme Court hearing. The BCCI has moved the National Company Law Tribunal seeking approval for resolving a payment dispute worth 158 crore rupees with Byju's. This move comes after the Supreme Court quashed an NCLAT order allowing a settlement between the two entities. The top court had also directed for the settlement sum to be parked in an escrow account managed by the Committee of Creditors. The NCLT will hear BCCI's plea on the 19th of November. That's tomorrow. And Honasa Consumer, which owns a D2C brand Mamaearth, hit an all-time low in trade today and hit 20% lower circuit. This after the firm reported a decline in sales, which led to a loss in the September quarter. The company reported a consolidated net loss of 19 crore rupees versus a profit after tax of 29 rupees in the same 29 crore rupees in the same period last year. The weak Q2 performance was due to a one-time inventory correction amidst a shift in its distribution model. And news now from the national capital. Delhi's air quality has slipped into the severe category, triggering stricter pollution control measures. The smog in the national capital has also disrupted train and flight operations. Abhimanyu Sharma, my colleague, filed this report earlier in the day.
The air quality index in the national capital has already reached severe plus levels. It has crossed 440, which has prompted the Centre for Air Quality Management in Delhi NCR to invoke the stage 4 of the graded response action plan. Decreased visibility in the national capital has prompted delays in air and rail transport. Around 28 trains have been delayed and 8 flights have been diverted. It remains to be seen whether any further action would also be initiated by the state governments as well as the central government to ensure that pollution levels are reduced in near future. However, stage 4 of GRAP would imply that there is a complete ban on all construction and demolition activities in Delhi NCR. Also, the Delhi government had earlier ordered physical closure of schools for classes 1st to 5th and had advised companies to allow their employees to work from home. It had also staggered timings for government employees to ensure minimum rush on the roads. Apart from that, the entry of trucks into Delhi NCR has also been curtailed, and only trucks carrying essential items would be allowed to enter the national capital. Also, there is a curb on the plying of BS3 petrol vehicles and BS4 diesel vehicles till further orders.
Now, West Asia continues to boil. Israeli military has killed at least 8 paramedics in Lebanon. This comes the day after Israeli forces killed Hezbollah spokesperson Mohammed Afif after striking a building in central Beirut. Gaza's health ministry has said that Israeli attacks killed 76 Palestinians and wounded 158 people in the last 24 hours. Forces have also bombed a Gaza safe zone, killing at least 4 people. Forces also bombed a multi-story building in northern Gaza. Pope Francis, meanwhile, has called for an investigation into allegations of genocide in the enclave. More international news. World leaders have gathered in Brazil's Rio for the 19th G20 summit. The fight against hunger, poverty and multilateral institution reforms are top of the agenda. A breakthrough on climate finance, which eluded the COP29 summit, may be on the cards. Leaders might brace for a new global order with the return of Donald Trump. U.S. President Joe Biden has authorized Ukraine to use long-range American missiles to strike Russia. The Biden administration had earlier refused to agree with Kyiv's requests for authorization to use these missiles outside its own borders. Reports have suggested that the Ukrainian army plans on using these missiles in the coming days. Reacting to the news, Zelensky said that the missiles will speak for themselves. Kremlin, meanwhile, has accused U.S. government of raising tensions in the region. And the second week of Climate Summit COP29 has commenced with very little progress on climate finance. Developing countries need at least $1 trillion per year by the end of this decade to cope with climate change. Right now, the climate finance goal stands at $100 billion per year. India has called out developed nations for their approach towards climate change. India said that developed nations also consistently postponed climate action despite having the resources at their disposal. The Indian delegation also added that mutual trust will be a key towards fighting climate change. Meanwhile, UN climate chief has requested G20 members to increase their support to provide debt relief and grant loans to vulnerable nations. Coming up on India Business Hour, NDA extends an olive branch to onion farmers in Maharashtra after a dismal performance in northern Maharashtra in the Lok Sabha elections. Will it work for the Mahayuti alliance? And you can also catch all CNBC-TV18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. Well, you are watching India Business Hour. On to Manipur now, where violence has escalated. Police have said that protester was killed in fighting after clash between forces and protesters that were vandalizing properties. The mob was protesting the killing of women and children abducted by militants. Manipur CM Biren Singh has called for an urgent meeting of MLAs to take stock of the law and order situation in the state. Bishwarjeet is here with the latest.
The situations in Manipur have gotten worse. Fierce violence broke out after 6 Meitei civilians who were abducted from Bobekara, Jiribam on November 8 and were found dead. As you can see, the tension is high, especially in Imphal. Security forces have been sent to the areas and curfew have been put in place in both Imphal East and West. This is also the third day of the curfew, and the internet has also been shut down to prevent the spread of rumors and more violence. Like in the previous protests, people have become very angry. They have attacked and burned the homes of several MLAs and ministers. Some reports even said that a few MLAs are thinking about resigning because they feel they cannot protect their people. But so far, no one has officially resigned yet. And now there's been a big political move yesterday. The National People's Party, NPP, which is a part of ruling government in Manipur, announced that they are withdrawing their support. This statement was made by Konrad K. Sangma, the national president of NPP, and it is a significant change in the state politics. To address the growing crisis, Chief Minister N. Biren Singh has called an urgent meeting with all MLAs and ministers today. The goal is to discuss how to improve the law and order and situations and find solutions. However, it is not clear how many of the leaders will attend. We saw the growing divide in the state leadership. Yes, Manipur is facing serious challenges. The state is struggling with both security and political problems, and it is unclear what will happen next. We will have to wait and see how the government responds. Back to you.
Now, two key alliances comprising 6 political parties. The Maharashtra pole dance floor is a crowded one. The state goes to polls on Wednesday in a single phase. The polls are also a high-stake legacy battle on 2 fronts. The fight for the real Sena and Bal Thackeray's legacy on one hand, and the battle for supremacy within the Pawar family. Take a look.
Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj आज मैं मुख्यमंत्री हूँ, मेरे दोनों साथी है उप मुख्यमंत्री, हम एक टीम बनकर इस चुनाव को सामने जा रहे हैं। उन्होंने कहा पहले शिवसेना, भाजपा और एनसीपी का गठबंधन का सब बात होने दो, उसके बाद हम करते हैं, हम बैठते हैं। लेकिन उन्होंने अपने सब कैंडिडेट अनाउंस कर दिए।
It's not like which faction is the real faction. We are the real party.
It's being contested. So
only because someone steals something, the thief doesn't become the owner of the thing.
Why blame Ajit Pawar? It's the real power behind Ajit Pawar who took all this away from us. It was the, the use of agencies, as I call it, ice. Ice was an ice that you put in your nimbu pani. It's the ice as an income tax, CBI and ED.
एक है तो सेफ है, ये नरेंद्र मोदी जी की महाराष्ट्र सरकार की स्ट्रेटजी है, हम आपको ये दिखाना चाह रहे हैं। एक है तो सेफ है, देख लीजिए।
Meanwhile, the farmers in Maharashtra's onion belt are frustrated. They had to deal with export restrictions stifling their pricing power and curtailing earnings that have already been hit by crop damage and delayed compensation. Santya Gora reports that onion farmers in Nashik are still raw over what they see as forced hardship, and this still is a big election issue.
these onion farmers have been crying themselves hoarse since the government banned the export of onions in August 2023. The ban meant they could not take advantage of high global prices for their produce. It cost them dearly because a lot of their crop had been damaged by unseasonal rainfall, a delayed monsoon, and heavy and uneven rainfall when the monsoons finally set in. The government lifted the ban a couple of weeks before the Lok Sabha elections in May 2024, but it did not help much. BJP won only 9 of the 23 seats in the state, and none of these 9 were in the onion belt. Ahead of the state assembly elections, the BJP-led Mahayuti government has reduced export duty on onions from 40% to 20%. It also removed the minimum export price of $550 per quintal. Money traders had to pay the center to export onions. But the Mahayuti insists this move is not political and won't be reversed.
उनको डरने की जरूरत नहीं, ये चुनाव का जुमला नहीं है। ये चुनाव आते ही, चुनाव खत्म होते ही हम दूसरा निर्णय लेंगे, वो डर उन्होंने निकालना चाहिए। हम कांग्रेस महाविकास आघाड़ी नहीं है।
While this has pacified some farmers, a few we spoke to still have their apprehensions.
पहले तो जो एक्सपोर्ट इंपोर्ट का जो मसला है, वो जो इन्होंने बंद किया है, वो तो पहले खुला कर देना चाहिए और हमेशा के लिए।
लेकिन पिछले साल जो 2.5 साल में प्याज का कुछ पैसा ही नहीं मिला, किसान एकदम तकलीफ में है।
इलेक्शन के टाइम आता है तो एक्सपोर्ट ड्यूटी कम करते हैं, हटा भी देते हैं, पूरी तरह से नहीं हटाते।
Experts say these apprehensions could play a key role in the upcoming state elections.
The major issue remains about the continuity in the policy of which, the farmers are really worried about it.
The opposition insists removing MEP is not enough and the government should have done more for farmers, from faster dispersal of compensation to higher procurement to pricing support.
The policy made by the BJP government for onions was completely wrong, and I've condemned it hundreds of times on the floor of the House in Parliament. Giving good prices was an option Maharashtra government had.
The government also organized Kanda trains in an effort to keep onion prices in the rest of the country under control, but farmers tell us they did not get a higher price under this exercise. Onion farmers represent a significant vote bank, particularly in northern Maharashtra. Many of the farmers we spoke to say the recent relaxations in India's onion export policy, along with the payout of crop damage compensation despite the delay, have significantly improved the community's outlook towards the ruling alliance. However, the opposition is intent on reinforcing that it was this ruling alliance's counterparts in the centre who came up with the restrictions in the first place, causing huge financial losses to the farmers. In Sinnar, with camera person Swapnil Bandekar, this is Santya for CNBC-TV18.
Well, from one poll-bound state to another, the campaigning for second phase of polling in Jharkhand ended today. 38 assembly seats go to polls on Wednesday in what would be a two-way contest between JMM-led bloc and the BJP-led NDA. Chief Minister and JMM leader Hemant Soren is eyeing a hat-trick from the seat of Barhaith. More from politics. Former AAP leader and Minister Kailash Gehlot joined the BJP less than 24 hours after quitting the party. In his resignation letter, Gehlot cited unfulfilled promises and recent controversies pertaining to the ED and the CBI as reasons for stepping down. Speaking to the media today, Gehlot said that he is not joining the BJP due to any external pressure, but because AAP had compromised its ideology. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. But we leave you with some interesting visuals of Infosys co-founder Narayana Murthy singing Elvis Presley's famous medley, Can't Help Falling in Love. Murthy revealed that this was one of the songs he sang to woo his now wife, Sudha Murthy, during their courtship period. Take a look, and thanks so much for watching.
Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you.